What's up? Chris from Florida here. Now, I apologize. I was supposed to make this video maybe like a week ago. Unfortunately, I fell ill. First time I've gotten sick since 2018. Yes, I'm a COVID virgin. I've never had COVID. Unfortunately, I got some sort of nasty flu, cold, not entirely sure. I think it was more of a cold than a flu. I was able to break it pretty easily. It started on election night and then got worse all the way till about Thursday. Then Friday was pretty much gone. It was a pretty rough one, but also it may have been a lack of sleep that didn't help it on top of that. Whatever it was pretty nasty, but nevertheless, it's not important. So I got sick. I didn't get a chance to make this video for you guys. And yes, I'm fine, and now my wife actually has it, but yes, if you followed for a while, I've wanted to get an OEM front splitter for my car because I unfortunately, for the first time in 7 years, scraped the bottom chin of my front bumper. The bottom of my front bumper was pretty rough already due to the fact that my parents, when I lived in my parents' house in Ohio, when I lived there, their incline to their garage went really high, so my car always scraped on it. So my air dam deflectors have a little bit of scuffs on them, and then the front bumper is a little scuffed. And well, yeah, it is what it is. I was like, okay, well, I want to get a splitter. GM doesn't make the OEM splitter at least anymore. Well, they may make it as a replacement part, but they want like $500 without paint in regards to it. It's very, very pricey, all right? The unfortunate reality is I didn't want to spend that much money, and it was just for something that I could probably take an aftermarket one, and as long as it's mounted properly, it'll look OEM, and that was my goal. So I wanted to find an OEM one, and finding an OEM one for the rally sport cars isn't really that easy because not a lot of people want an OEM. They want something crazy or ricey looking or aggressive looking. Just basically, I wanted something more subtle and something that looked like it came from the factory that way. When I started digging around, ACS Composites has one, but then it's not painted, so you'd have to paint it or wrap it, whichever you want to go with it. I went to IKON Motorsports because I remembered that I bought rear diffuser that I'm still lukewarm about. I do like it, and it's growing on me, and I think I still I think I want to sit my tips back a little bit because I think they sit out too much. This is still a thing to this day that I still haven't figured out if I love or hate yet. They're still fine, but I think I prefer one day if I have the time to do so, I'm going to push those tips in a little bit more. So I went to IKON Motorsports and I saw the listing on eBay at first, and then it was unpainted and it was like $90, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cheap. Well, I went to IKON Motorsports' actual site, and when I went on their site, they actually offer, you can get carbon fiber, but I'm not into that. I wanted something gloss black or flat black or matte black, like something that's painted that's gloss or matte, and thus they offered a gloss black option. And I was like, wow, that's great. It was like $150 or something like that, or $180 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head which number at first. I ordered it for a few days. Nothing happened with the order. We're going to talk about my experience with ordering from them. It was a little interesting, but they were accommodating when you called them, but not very much information was sent to me personally unless I called them. I had to call them. I had to place 2 different orders. The first order, what happened was the shipping cost to them was too expensive, so they canceled the order, and thus I had to reorder. And when I reordered, the price went up. I ended up paying like $250 or $260 to do it after, when it was at first like $100 and some bucks. It is what it is. It's still cheaper than OEM by like half the cost, even with paint. Whatever. I wasn't a fan of paying more, but it is what it is. OEM is still much more expensive. Especially, and the reason I didn't go OEM, typically I like to go OEM with parts, especially like tail lamps and stuff like that. The problem is well, GM doesn't really make it as an accessory anymore, so you can't find it on the accessory sites. And on top of that, it's a car I drive once a week. So that was my ordering system. I'm not very a big fan of how that happened, but they gave me a coupon to make up for the price. But now when we talk about the actual quality of the product, it's actually pretty decent. I don't think I took any photos of it out of the box or in the box. The packaging was pretty well done. The actual product, it's an aftermarket splitter, so it's not super stout and stiff like the OEM one probably is, but it does look OEM, and it does look the part. It's just, you can definitely tell it's a little bit lighter than probably like an OEM one, or a little bit less, it's a little bit more flexible than the OEM one. It is what it is. Like I said, you paid the amount. The actual part itself is like $90 without paint. The paint quality, actually pretty good. Just like the OEM diffuser that I got from them, the paint quality is actually pretty well done. I was actually very impressed with it. I mean, it's They're whatever they use for our paint booth. Congrats on them. There was no specks in it. There was no little goofy little marks in it. There's no orange peel that it looks like it should from the factory. And of course, I'm going to show you the walk around before that. I was just impressed. So congrats on that. The ordering process, I'm not the biggest fan of IKON Motorsports. And like I said, I didn't have no issues with my diffuser, but with this, I had a bit of an issue with the ordering process. But when it came to getting the part to my house and it being safe, I had no issues. When it comes to installation of this, it's a little bit tricky because I wanted to keep my air dam deflectors, or some people call them curb feelers. So when I was installing that, I did this on the ground. I didn't feel like lifting the car, so I just sat on the ground and did it. When you're doing it, it's pretty simple. You unbolt the bottom tray. You unbolt all the way to the little air dam deflectors. There is a big gap. So the bolts that comes with the car, you know, the ones that are from the factory, they can still work. You just have to really pinch the 3 layers of the bumper, the skid plate, the air dam deflector, and the splitter. So there's like 4 things that's like this thick that bolt has to connect to, and then find that little tiny threaded piece inside that your front bumper connects to. Be on the lookout. That can be a little bit of a pain. You kind of really have to jimmy it and really kind of like sit there and squeeze, and then it's still tight. I did this all by myself. My wife took a nap during that time frame, so I did it all by myself on a Friday. It took me a couple hours. The reason being is just because I had a really hard time of like really getting it to catch on those edge pieces. But once you kind of like started from the beginning and finally got to the end, it was pretty simple from there on out. I'd say installation, if you're on a lift, it's gonna be much easier. If you're on the ground, well, it might take you about a couple hours, depending on how good you are at holding something and tightening. That was just my own fault. I was kind of just lazy about like moving the car or taking the car in the air or even turning the wheel. So I did this with the wheels straight. So I did myself a disservice. That's on me. I'd recommend like turning the wheels or putting the car in the air. Outside of that though, I mean, it's just simple. The flush from with just the factory bolts is actually really good. There's a slight gap right on my passenger side, and it's not very thick. It's also not very thin. It is what it is. I put some 3M tape all around it to kind of push it in and really hold it in place. We'll see how it holds up over time. If not, I'll make some adjustments here and there. Outside of that, like design wise, it looks really good. It looks OEM, it looks flush. Just the quality of the product, I'd say for what you pay, you get a pretty good product. It's definitely something that they probably make in China and then they paint in the United States. Although GM stuff's probably not made in America anyway, so it doesn't matter. I think for the price that I paid, it's actually pretty good. There, of course, with IKON Motorsports stuff, their diffuser doesn't fit 100%. There's still like little tiny gaps and little tiny things you can nitpick about. It's not OEM, but you also pay a fraction of the price of OEM. So you get what you pay for. Let me know what you think. Chris from Florida out.